SCA Minhag of the Week, Life Cycles. We were talking about the wedding, and in the last episode I spoke about the ketubah. Bringing up the ketubah brought forward a lot of emails, a lot of questions. People want to know so many different things, and I'm happy to try to answer these questions and bring them to light and let people know what our minhagim are. So the main question that keeps coming up is, when was the wedding done? Was it daytime? Was it nighttime? Where was it done? Was it done outdoors? Was it done indoors? Was it done in the home? Was it done in knis? Was it done in the rabbi's office? All different questions are coming up, all surrounding the wedding. Since we brought up the ketubah, and people associate, obviously, the ketubah already, wherever you're having the wedding, so they want to know about that first and foremost. So, first let's talk about the wedding, in the sense that there was a takana that you must have a minyan. You must have 10 men present to have a wedding. Without it, the wedding is invalid. That was something that was established by the Hachamim of Halab, and we know about this from the writings of Rabbi Abu Lafia, one of the chief rabbis in Damascus, who writes about it. Was the wedding done daytime or nighttime? So there seems to be some sort of conflicting evidence, but I do know when I was very young and I spoke to our late chief rabbi, Rabbi Jacob S. Kassin, about weddings in general, he said when he arrived in this community, approximately 1933 or so, says the minhag that they had was weddings were done at midnight. And he said that was the minhag that they brought with them from Halab, and they continued to have weddings very, very late at night until slowly he was able to convince them to have it somewhat earlier. But the old minhag was to have weddings very, very late, and he specified that where it used to be at midnight. Now, where was the wedding done? So in the old days, let's talk about the new days first, Modern times, it's done in the knis. Same way we like to do wedding in the knis, in the bet knesset, in the synagogue, it was also done that way. And we're talking about indoors, not in the courtyard of the synagogue, not outdoors, under the stars. No, inside the synagogue, like we would do it in Sha'ar Sion, for example. But what was the custom in the old days? And this is very interesting. As we know nowadays, the bride's family is the one who basically pays for the wedding. And back in Halab, the wedding was actually in the home of the father of the bride. He had the wedding in his home. Everything would be prepared there. And then the hatan, the groom, would arrive there. The wedding would actually happen in that home. After the ceremony was over, then the groom would leave. The bride would still stay with her family. The groom would leave. He would go home. He would go to his home and sit in an area that was designated to be called also the huppah. So even though the ceremony is over, they had another designated area called huppah in the house of the groom. He would sit down in an elevated area like a podium, and he would wait for the kala, for his bride to arrive. And when she would arrive, he would greet her by going down a step or two towards her. She would come up a step or two, and then he would help her up, and they would sit together, and the festivities would happen while they were seated. At least that's the way the festivities would start. Also, when ceremony happened, again, back in the old days, as opposed to modern days where both the bride and groom are standing, in the old days, the groom would stand and the bride would sit. There would be a specially decorated chair, like a throne, if you will, for the bride, and it would have like a crown of flowers on top of the bride, and everybody knew this was the bride's chair, and she sat there with pride. But the groom would stand to her side. The groom was always to the left of the bride. The bride was always to the right of the groom. And that's the way the weddings happen. As we get up to the wedding ceremony, we'll talk about more details about the wedding. But I hope that gives you a basic idea of where the wedding was, what time of day it was, and how things developed and changed over time. Mabruk.